Hi, this is Hunter with You Know Ball, and today I'm going to be going over the Caleb Williams versus Justin Fields debate. So I pulled up some tweets from Dave Kluge, and this came out probably about a week ago, and I was planning on making a video about it, but I just never got around to it. But I had some free time today, so we're going to get into it. So basically, what he did is Dave Kluge is a Jay Cutler apologist. Just kidding. He is with Football Guys. It's a fantasy football platform, but he put some very interesting statistics together, basically showing like what taking a quarterback number one overall, like how much success you will have doing that over taking them at any other spot in the draft. Okay. So let's get into it. So first, he describes success as an arbitrary term and can have a lot of different definitions. So I chose 5 benchmarks that could indicate success. 4,000 yards passing yards in a season, 30 touchdowns, 80 career starts, winning a playoff game, making the Pro Bowl. Now, obviously, Pro Bowl voted in by the fans, so not the biggest marker, but it is definitely a lot harder to get an All-Pro. So we're going to go with Pro Bowls. So quarterbacks drafted number one overall, 20 total in the last 30 years, hit these benchmarks at an astonishing rate. So 70% of those 20 had a 4,000 yard season, 45% threw for 30 touchdowns, 81% had 80 starts in the NFL. 80 starts is, hold on, I'm going to do some quick math. 80 divided by 16, about 5 years, right? I know it's 17 games now, but this goes back 30 years. They have 70% of them have a playoff win, and 70% of them has made a Pro Bowl. Bryce Young, Jamarcus Russell, David Carr, and Tim Couch are the only busts by these standards. So Bryce Young obviously has only played 1 year, and he was put in a horrible situation. Jamarcus Russell busted because he had a lot of shit going on in his personal life, and he just was not committed to football. David Carr was thrown into one of the worst situations on an expansion team, and Tim Couch, the Browns are just the Browns. So, as you can see in this chart, 8 of the eligible quarterbacks hit every one of those marks. 8. So he's saying out of those 20 and beyond, outside of these 4 right here, half of them, so 16, 8 of them hit every one of those marks. That doesn't mean that they didn't hit at least one. It means every single one, which is crazy. Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, and Kyler Murray are still too early in their careers to have done so, and they will likely join the others within a few years. So this number isn't even completely comprehensive because you still have guys who haven't even played 80 games in their career yet. So let's take a look at the chart real quick. Okay, so we have Bryce Young. He hasn't hit anything because there's no chance. So Bryce Young, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, and Kyler Murray have not had the chance to start 80 games yet. Okay. Trevor Lawrence hit 4,000 yards, a playoff win, and a Pro Bowl. And so let's just look at it. Most of the time, it seems like when these guys are hitting these marks, they're not just hitting like 1 or 2. Like they're mostly hitting 4 or 5. I can only see one person in here that is Mike Vick, who hit 3. And that's really crazy. Like, these are all quarterbacks that went over since 1993 that went number one overall. And as you can see, like, Kyler Murray still hasn't hit a 4,000 yard season, 30 touchdown, playoff win. But he has had a Pro Bowl. So, I mean, you can make your arguments for Kyler Murray. I think he is a talented quarterback. I don't think he is like in the elite tier, but he's definitely like, I guess my thing is like, even if you take the number one overall pick and they aren't generational, I think Kyler Murray is a good enough quarterback that can win you games. I just think he has to have the talent around him. He has to have the coaching, everything like that. Like, he's shown like that he can be productive on a not the best well-rounded team. So he is the only one that I'm really surprised by. Trevor Lawrence, no 30 touchdown season. I mean, he's still young. But Baker Mayfield, even we see his resurgence with the Bucks. Like, he bounced around a few teams, but like there's a reason that these guys go number one overall. So like Baker Mayfield, 4,000 yard season, playoff win. He got one with the Bucks. He got one with the Browns. So he's done it for 2 organizations. He has 80. Yeah, I'm on the right line. He has 80 career starts. Like, if he has a 30 touchdown season, like Baker Mayfield is nowhere near a bust. Like, that's the thing. I think a lot of people get really like caught up in this, like, well, if they're not like a top five quarterback, then they're a bust. It's like, no, like, you go into the number one overall pick hoping that they are that top five guy. But at the end of the day, like, if you get a long time franchise starter who can win games for you, that is what it's about. It's not about trying to get, well, it is about trying to get the best guy, but it's like he doesn't need to be the best player in the NFL. As long as you can get a really quality quarterback who can lead your team for the next 10, 15 years, that's what it's about. I mean, you see Jared Goff, he hits every one of these marks, and he's done it with two teams. He went to the Super Bowl with the Rams. He's with the Lions in the NFC Championship right now. Even Jameis Winston, like, regardless how you feel about him, like, I'm a big Jameis fan, but he has hit all these marks. So it's like you can't really consider these guys busts. Like, even Sam Bradford, like, started 80 games. Like, he didn't hit any other of these marks, but if you think about it, like, he's a guy who has played long enough in the league where he started 80 games. Like, I think this is a very interesting chart to look at, especially if you're against, like, picking Caleb Williams number one or even Drake May. But it's like, my thing is, like, if you are taking a guy number one overall, like, he has a very, very high floor. And in my opinion, based on these numbers, Caleb Williams will have a much higher floor than Justin Fields will have. You can make the argument that Justin Fields' ceiling is crazy, but the reality is he doesn't have that high of a floor. We've seen it. So, next tweet, looking at QBs drafted 2 to 32. So there's 63 total, right? So every other pick in the first round, only 25 of them have got, 25% have hit 4,000 yards, 24%, 30 touchdowns, 35%, 80 yards total, or 80 starts, 38% with a playoff win, and 33 Pro Bowl selection. So mind you, Justin Fields was drafted number 11 by the Bears, and they moved up to go get him. So only Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Ryan Tannehill, Matt Ryan, Aaron Rodgers, Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger, and Dante Culpepper have hit. So this is kind of what I was talking about in terms of, like, going and get your franchise guy. Like, you have a way better chance going at one. These two guys and this guy right here. So three of the 8 are like have been like top 5 quarterbacks at any time, at some time in their career, and they have been there for a while. Phillip Rivers was even, you could argue, up there. Ben Roethlisberger, you could argue, was up there at a certain time. So, like, Ryan Tannehill and Dante Culpepper was good. Like, Ryan Tannehill was a dark horse MVP. Matt Ryan went to a Super Bowl. He was an MVP. Like, all these guys are MVP, so you can get them. But if you look at, like, you are picking from a way bigger sample size here compared to the number one overall pick. Obviously, like, that's a fact. But it's just like you have a way higher percentage, and, like, with football and the draft, you're really playing a numbers game. So you'd think trimming down to top 10 and top 5 picks would help. So these are all quarterbacks picks outside of the number one overall pick, but still within the top 10 and the top 5. So picks 2 to 10, still in the high 20s for 4,000 yards, mid 20s for 30 touchdowns, 41% for 80 plus starts, which is good. This is 2 to 10, and then playoff win 54%. So 17 quarterbacks picked 2 to 10 in the last 30 years have a playoff win. 63 have a Pro Bowl selection. Okay, so 23 QBs in the last 30 years. 4,000 yard, 26%, 30 touchdown, 22%, 80 starts, 39%, playoff win, 35%, Pro Bowl, 43%. So these stats are really similar, and to me that is concerning because it's like outside of that number one pick, you're kind of gambling with the same odds. With the number one pick, you know what your odds are. We just saw the numbers. With these picks, pick 2 to 10, the numbers are similar. So you can only imagine picks 2 to 32, picks 2 to 64. Like, the odds only go down. And it's just like, my thing is, if you're going to take a swing on a quarterback in the draft, especially high, and you have the number one overall pick, the numbers just do not suggest passing up on that opportunity. So he says, we remember busts like Russell, Carr, Couch, and the Steels, Mahomes, Allen, Rodgers, Culpepper, but taking the QB1 in the class is usually the best practice. In addition to hitting these arbitrary marks, number one QBs average out better in almost every stat, including win-loss. And the win-loss record is very important in my opinion. Not to say wins are a QB stat, but when you think about it, these quarterbacks going one are usually going to the worst team in the NFL, like most of the time. So my thing is, if they have the best win-loss record, my opinion is they are that transcendent of the team that is selecting them that they're able to turn that team who is not that good into a winning franchise. Trading back and drafting a cheaper quarterback may sound good in theory, but here's how much you increase the odds of drafting a quarterback who will hit these marks at number one as opposed to a top 5 pick. So you have a 2.7 times better chance of getting a 4,000 yard quarterback out of the first overall pick. You have a 2 times better chance of getting a quarterback that will throw 30 plus touchdowns, 2.1% chance of a quarterback that will have 80 plus starts, a two-time chance of getting a quarterback with a playoff win. Like that is very important. Like if you want your team to be successful, like you need to be able to have your quarterback win in the playoffs. Pro Bowl, he used this one. I don't really count this one. Mr. Trubisky was a Pro Bowler. Geno Smith was a Pro Bowler. I don't really care about this stat. This chart visualizes how much safer a QB at number one overall is compared to other first-round quarterbacks. So this is very, obvious, in my opinion. Regardless of the option, taking a QB number one overall wins every time. Literally every time. Even Pro Bowl. The only thing that's close is Pro Bowl. Pro Bowl is the closest, and that is, in my opinion, the most meaningless stat. You see the key up here, but 4,000 yard season. Look at the hit rate. Look at the hit rate in the 80 games. If you're looking for a long-time starter like this is it. Playoff win, you have better opportunity picks 2 to 10 than 2 to 5. Obviously, that's more data. But my thing is the thing that is closest is the Pro Bowl, and that's the least important stat in my opinion. With all this data, and I know there's other things that you can say, but it's with the simple data that you look at, it's so obvious to me that it's you really do need to take that quarterback number one overall, especially because it's not your pick. You have a free pick. You have another pick at number 9. And my thing is, I love Justin. Justin is probably my favorite quarterback the Bears have ever had outside of Jay Cutler. But when you look at the stats, regardless of the situation he's been put in, when you look at the stats, he just hasn't been good enough. He just has not been good enough to keep and pay $40 million, because my thing is, he's not taking less than Daniel Jones. That is just a reality. That is the QB market right now, and you have to pick up his 5th-year option in March. And at that point, this is the time where extensions get done after the 3rd year, and his agent and Justin is not going to take less than Daniel Jones made, and that's really going to hinder what you can do with your team. You can make the argument, yeah, trade down, get a bunch of picks, but picks are just gambles. And I know the number one pick is a gamble, but if you look at the statistics, you have a better chance of getting your franchise guy there than any other pick in the draft. So I just don't think you can justify giving Justin 40, 50 mil a year when he hasn't shown that he can be a consistent winner and passer at the NFL level. So Dave says, again, these are arbitrary marks. These are arbitrary marks. There are more and better ways to define success. But if you want a quarterback who will throw 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns, make a Pro Bowl, win a playoff game, and start for 5+ years, you're most likely to get that guy at 1.01, which I agree with. So I guess my thing is, here's another thing I want to look at, is because a lot of Bears fans will argue, what if, these Bears quarterbacks, he leaves and he goes to the right system? I hope that's the case. I hope that Justin Fields goes and have success other places, but timeline-wise, it does not line up for the Bears and what they're trying to do. And also, my opinion is, please, can you show me the history of Bears quarterbacks leaving and being better than when they left? Okay, we got Mitch Trubisky here. Mitch Trubisky actually had better passing seasons than Justin Fields. He had 3,000 yards passing seasons, and regardless of his stats, he was a weapon when he would run. He is not to the level of Fields, but he still could move. He went to the Bills, backed up Josh Allen for a year, and then he went to the Pittsburgh Steelers, where he ended up being benched for Mason Rudolph. Now, unless you think Mason Rudolph is an all NFL talent, then it's not impressive. And I guess my thing too is, what was Mitch Trubisky, the second pick? Like my thing is like another thing. He wasn't the number one quarterback taken like that. He was the number one quarterback taken in the draft, I believe. I believe it was Trubisky, Mahomes, Deshaun. It was those three in some order. But my thing is, he didn't leave and have success other places. Okay. Next, let's go to Jay Cutler. Okay. Jay Cutler came from the Broncos to Chicago, probably the most successful quarterback the Bears have ever had outside of like Sid Luckman and Jim McMahon. But like the reality is like Jay Cutler was the best quarterback we had before, like probably the best quarterback we ever had in reality. And he played here for 7 years, 2009, 2016. He was he was decent on the Broncos, and then he was pretty good for the Bears. I mean, there's a lot of mixed feelings on Jay, but like in reality, he was the best quarterback that we ever had. Went to the Miami Dolphins for next year, 2017, and then didn't play after that. Kyle Orton was with the Bears from 2005 to 2008. Went to the Broncos, the Chiefs, the Cowboys, the Bills, but like no crazy season. Like no crazy season. So it's like, okay, we're getting down there, right? Now we got Rex Grossman. He was with the Bears, went to the Super Bowl, went to the Texans, the Commanders, the Browns, then the Falcons. And with the Falcons and the Browns, he was on the practice squad only. So my thing, okay, didn't have success when he left. Okay, now we're going to go really far back. So mind you, we're already past the 20-year mark. Like, we are at 20 years of Bears quarterbacks leaving and then not being better. It is very possible that the Bears have just never had that guy. And the Bears have never been in position to just take the best guy at number one. Like, that has not been a reality for the Bears because historically they have not been like, they've been bad, but they have not been the worst team in the league. And this isn't even our pick. Like, this is the opportunity to do it. So Jim Miller, he was with the Steelers, the Frankfurt Galaxy, the Jaguars, the Falcons, the Lions, and then he was with the Bears for 4 years. Then he was with the Bucks, the Patriots, the Giants. My thing is this, like, he bounced around so many teams. Like, obviously he is not like a guy that teams wanted to hold on to. Not saying he was horrible by any means, but like, if you really look at it, like, all the way going back to 1998, whenever Bears quarterbacks have left, they have never been better on their other team. Now, you can argue Justin Fields is the most talented quarterback the Bears have ever had, which I won't disagree with you. I think he is. But he hasn't been able to put it together on the field at the NFL level as a passer. And at the end of the day, like, you are playing the quarterback position, and it is an offensive league. So if you cannot dominate through the air, like, teams are just going to shut you down on the ground, and we saw that this year. His numbers dipped. And another thing with Fields is he's been injured almost every year, and it's like, you can say like, well, what if if he would have played all 17 games, blah blah blah, he would have these stats, but he didn't. He didn't. The best ability is availability a lot of the time, and my thing is, when you look at all the stats and the realistic situation of why you need to draft the quarterback at number one, whether that be Caleb Williams or Drake May, and trade Justin Fields, there's a 20-year history showing that Bears quarterbacks don't leave and get better. Also, there are statistics that show you the best place to take a quarterback in the draft is number one overall. Justin Fields was the 11th pick. Like, they drafted Trey Lance and Zach Wilson over Justin Fields. Like, obviously these teams, now, don't get me wrong, they both were bust, and Justin Fields, in my opinion, is a better quarterback, but like, if you look at some of Zach Wilson's stats, he ranks better than Fields. And it's like, there's a reason these teams passed up on these guys. So with all the stats showing that taking a quarterback number one overall in the draft is the best possibility of finding your franchise guy, and then looking at the history of Bears quarterbacks who have left and not had success in other places, I don't really understand how you make the argument that you keep Justin Fields. I understand he has elite running ability and he has a very good arm, but like, if he can't put it together up here on the field, like, do you want to tie yourself for 5 years for $40 million to a quarterback whose passing stats are like very bad? Like, we ran Mitch Trubisky out of town and he had better passing stats. Oh, the OC's garbage, blah blah blah. Like, people ran Nagy out of town too. Like, was he like the worst OC in the world? I mean, he's not good, but I mean, he's better than Getsy in my opinion. But at the end of the day, it's like, what do you want, man? Like, you want to keep living in mediocrity? Like, the stats show you that taking quarterback with number one overall is the reality, the best option for the Bears. So, yeah, thank you guys for watching. I really like this thread that David Kluge put together. Shout out to him. I've been waiting to like go over it. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you think the Bears should do. If they should keep if they should draft Caleb Williams or keep Justin Fields. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel. We're bringing you daily content every single day. So yeah, thank you guys for watching.